Hello, everyone. We have still 2 minutes. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edyta Lachowicz-Santos, and I work at University of Economics in Katowice in Poland. I also am a chair of an expert team on employability at European Association of International Educators. Today, I welcome you at the webinar organized by the National Agency of Academic Exchange, NAWA, in a series of webinars dedicated to international students in Poland. But we know that there are many people registered from outside of Poland for over 20 countries, so a very diverse audience. If you want to say hi and tell us where you are from, please use the chat so we can see where you are here and you can say hi to one another. The idea of the webinar that I would like to invite you to is not really like presentation with slides or charts. It's more like a meeting. So I invite you to a meeting with my colleagues and dear friends from different countries, from different levels of development of the pandemic. They are both employers as well as career officers, and they will share with you some ideas and information about this global graduate labor market nowadays. The plan of the webinar, we have around 40 minutes. First, there will be an introduction by one of the speakers, a bit longer, and then each speaker will speak around 3 to 5 minutes. And in the end, there will be time to answer your questions. So please, during the whole webinar, you're free to ask questions in the chat. I will be following it. I'll try to follow. I try not to look there because there are so many people writing. Hi, everyone from Łódź, India, Katowice. So nice to have you here. So not to distract me, I will follow later the questions. So in the end, we'll answer your questions. We face very uncertain times. We know that our reality has been changed, and so has the labor market. Different sectors of economy had a very different impact that affected them. So on the one hand, we have airlines, tourism, restaurants, or hairdresser and beauty salons that are facing very harsh time and struggling. And on the other hand, you have e-commerce, cloud computing, or online entertainment, where the sales are skyrocketing and really blasting. So this, of course, influenced the demand for certain professions in labor market as well as skills. This has changed the labor market in a dramatic way. Countries introduced also measures of social distancing that moved our professional life to home offices. Before the pandemic, there were around 5% of people working from home on a regular basis. Right now, there are millions worldwide facing this new reality and trying to combine personal and private life and professional life from homes. This, on the other hand, changed also the perspective of skills needed, skills like time management, team building, or maybe communication as we know it, how to manage a team without personal contact, without body language that I like, for example, to use, how to learn by observation when you don't meet, when you only work from homes. Requires new approaches, new mindsets. We know the students are stressed. We know that there is a lot of uncertainty about their future, a lot of media buzz creating apocalyptic scenarios and pessimistic visions. So what we would like to do in this webinar is to hopefully motivate you to think out of the box, to be more optimistic and to look at what is possible rather than impossible. As what we like to believe, impossible is nothing. So without further ado, I give the floor to the first speaker, Juan Santos, the CEO and economist from international company here in Poland, located in Gliwice. And the floor is yours, Juan. Are you here?
Trying to connect.
Okay.
There?
Yes. So the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Mecalux, company which I represent here, is one of the leading companies in the storage system markets. In other words, we are selling warehouses, manual and automated, normally for big companies. We are selling in more than 70 countries, and the group has 11 production centers distributed in Europe and North and South America. Particularly in Poland right now, we hire around 150 people, divided between factories, offices, and operations department. I'm going to speak a little bit about, how we reacted or how we analyze data in order to react to the effects of the COVID-19. To simplify it, I would say that we collect data from two main sources. One is internal, mainly the orders and the process of ordering, and the other one is the macroeconomic data that's being published. Regarding internal data, normally we have three main sources of information regarding the orders. One is the order that we are already processing, means our portfolio, the current portfolio, which obviously is good because in general in the economy, the last quarter and the last year have been generally good, and therefore we have guarantee work for the next few months. Then there are the new orders. New orders is present and future as well. Well, in our particular business, we are doing pretty good. We are doing okay because it's true that we work with many sectors, but one of the main sectors that we work with is food and pharmaceutical, and of course as well e-commerce. E-commerce in particular have a serious growth right now. It's also true that we are really affected in some of the countries that we are present. Our headquarters are in Spain, and there we are heavily affected, but also in France or in Italy. What is really surprising is the States being one of the countries more affected right now. We are beating all the records that we have ever managed to get in terms of sales, and this is offsetting a little bit the numbers. Also, last but not least, we are controlling the new leads. New leads are the projects that the customers are requesting, so new projects that they want to run, or they're asking us to prepare offers. Actually, this is dropping, but it's also true that the requests that we are getting are more serious. Normally, in our ongoing business, we get a huge percentage of them that they are just budgeting or evaluating how much a warehouse might cost. As I said before, we also evaluate macroeconomic data. So it means official results already published, and also forecast. Well, we all know that the economists are really good evaluating the past, and we are really, really bad forecasting the future. Nonetheless, we have a look at them. What we know today is that the economic impact, as usual, in national economies will be asymmetrical. It will depend a lot on how much a country has been affected by the virus, the weight of the most affected sectors on the GDP. So, as to put an example, the Spanish economy has a huge impact. Tourism as well, French and Italian, but mainly Spanish. Spanish is 15% of the GDP and is the number one. In Poland, in particular, it's just 4.5. This is really significant and important because this will have, again, a huge impact on the GDP growth or the decrease due to the fact that, well, it's going to become probably close to zero. Let's be honest, the official data published for the first quarter of this year is really negative. And we all believe that it's going to be the worst. Obviously, the first quarter was just when all the restrictions began. And therefore, probably there will be really, really bad data coming out of the second quarter. Just some numbers, the American economy is ranked by 4.8 in the first quarter, the French GDP 5.8 and the Spanish 5.2, just in the first quarter. A third of Americans says today that they will be really uncomfortable going to a mall. When Germany opened the small shops, the customers were really away from them. The Danish, under the lockdown, were cutting the household spending in entertainment offline by 80%. And the people in next door Sweden also were cutting it, although there was no lockdown. Right now, when we are evaluating what could happen afterwards, the only example that we have is China. China is the only one living the life after lockdown, and actually is running right now at 90%. In many things, 90% is just fine, but let's be honest, in economy, it's miserable. This, of course, all affects seriously the employment market. Right now, in Europe, the 5 largest economy, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK have over 13 million workers, a fifth of the labor force, in specialist schemes where the state pays the wages. I mean, this can be generous and fundamental to avoid the long economic crisis, but nobody knows how long it might last. The job market is under huge pressure, as I said right now. In March alone, Spanish firms shed 900,000 employees, American 700,000. We are expecting to get around 15% of unemployment in the States in the third quarter, dropping to 10% in the fourth quarter. In Poland, actually, the unemployment rate in February was beating records. We were in 2.9%, but is expecting to reach 10% by the end of the year and dropping only to 8% according to the last forecast of the International Monetary Fund by the end of the year. We need to understand that in Poland, despite the numbers that I'm giving right now, it's also significant the fact that there are some sectors looking for employees. Mainly construction is due to the fact that, well, we all know that Poland was using workforce from Ukraine in some of those sectors, and the Ukrainians, they just left the country as soon as the virus exploded in Europe. Now, regarding the strategy of our company, I know that I said at the beginning that, well, the data, our internal data is pretty positive, or generally is positive. However, our company looks at the overall data, and let's be honest, there is a huge level of uncertainty right now. And that has led us to take a really conservative approach. For the next 3 months, since May, so May, June, and July, we applied, and we think we gather one of the current aids that the Polish government is offering. That kind of aid is basically our employees will work 4/5 of their time, so 80% of their time, and the salary will be paid half by our company, half by the state. Regarding hiring new employees, let's be honest, right now during this period is not the top of our priorities. It's true, though, I have to say that during the last 5 to 6 years we have serious vacancies, and we have been looking for fulfill these positions and not really successful. Nonetheless, today, again, is not one of our priorities. We will only hire some employees in case the CV really match exactly technically these requirements that we have. In general, I could say we are still looking for control engineers, CNC specialists, or even welding specialists. Hiring employees nowadays in other positions, it has become extremely complicated because, of course, meetings with the social distance are complicated. Only is possible to do it through a webcam. And honestly speaking, you don't get the full picture of the employee or a good feeling or a complete feeling on the employee. Nonetheless, and despite all what I have said before, we believe that if the government makes the proper job, and it's highly possible that the crisis will be extremely short, and in the next year, the economy will bounce back worldwide, opening and creating new career opportunities for all of you. I wish you a bright future and more than ever health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan, for this perspective of an employer. And right now, we will move to UK, to Scotland, actually, where Jim Campbell, the student service manager at Abertay University in Dundee, Scotland, with vast experience in career services, will share the British perspective at the situation. Hello, Jim. We cannot hear you. Can you put the mic on? Oh, yes.
Hi there. Yep. So, I don't know if you can hear me, Edyta. I'm just waiting for this. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Okay, so my name is Jim Campbell, as Edyta mentioned, and I work at a small university in Scotland called Abertay University. It specialises in computer games. So in the UK, as you can imagine, there is a lot of concern for students who are just about to graduate into a very uncertain job market. We do know that COVID-19 will have an impact on the job market, obviously, but at this early stage, it's not entirely clear how big that impact will be. There is consensus that we will enter into a global recession. So in this short presentation, what I want to do is look back at previous recessions, and in particular, the 2008 recession, and see if there's any lessons we can learn from that experience. And I will also share with you some information from bits of research that are taking place in the UK right now on the current job market. Okay. Okay, thank you. There are two organisations in the UK that are very active at the moment in trying to establish a picture of the graduate job market over the next few months. One is called Graduate Prospects, and I'll speak about them in a second. The other one is called the Institute of Student Employers, and this is an organisation which represents all the major graduate recruiters in the UK. Their chief executive is called Stephen Isherwood, and he had this message, this hopeful message for people who are about to graduate. So he acknowledges that this will be a difficult year, but he talks about previous recessions and how employers have reacted in those recessions. And the experience before has been those employers who halted recruitment during recession struggled when the economic upturn arrived because they didn't have the right staff in place. So it's sensible for employers to continue to recruit during a recession so that when the recovery arrives, and we just heard from Juan that he expects that recovery to be quick and maybe within a year. So it's important that employers have the staff they need to take advantage of the upturn. Okay, I mentioned the other organisation who are doing a lot of research is Graduate Prospects, and one of the findings they looked at was looking back to 2008 with the economic crash, the banking crisis back then. A lot of commentators suggested that graduates coming out into the job market in 2008 would struggle. In the reality, that turned out not to be the case. I've got some figures here. Right, I appreciate you might not be able to make out the detail, but I think what's important here though is there are two lines. The top line on this graph represents the professional level jobs from 2007 onwards, right up to 2016. And the bottom line represents non-professional jobs or non-graduate jobs. So you'll see that in 2008, on the professional job line, the number of jobs plateaued, it didn't decline. Whereas if you contrast that with the non-professional jobs, you can see that the numbers collapsed in that 2008 recession. And then 1 year later, 2009, the growth in professional jobs continued on its way upwards again and continued upwards until 2016. And again, that contrasts with the non-graduate jobs, which only now return to the level they were at before 2008. So I think that just underlines the point made by Stephen Isherwood that it makes sense for graduates to recruit during a recession. And those figures bear that point out. Okay. Another bit of research that was carried out by the Institute of Student Employers was focusing on the job market right now. And they did a quick survey about 1 month ago of their member organisations. So remember that these are most of the major graduate recruiters in the UK, and almost half of those employers said that they would continue to hire graduates as normal. And there was only about 1/4 who said that they intend to reduce the hiring of graduates at this stage. So I think there's a bit of hope in there. Okay, I'll just come back to another piece of research carried out by Graduate Prospects. So again, they've been trying to build up a picture of what is happening right now in the graduate job market. And as with any recession, there are winners and losers, and Edyta has already mentioned some of this. But what Graduate Prospects discovered was that in some areas, and I think we know which ones we're talking about, travel, hospitality, catering, you can see this in your own countries. It's a very uncertain future, immediate future for some of those sectors, and it's unlikely there'll be a lot of recruitment into those areas in the short term. But because we're emerging into a new reality, and with social distancing, we rely more heavily on IT solutions, then that is clearly good news for the IT sector. And so there will be recruitment there. And similarly, as you would expect at this time, the health and social care sectors will continue to recruit. There'll be no reduction in opportunities in those sectors. So again, winners and losers, but some parts of the economy will continue to offer jobs for graduates. The other big trend that Graduate Prospects identified right now, and I think Juan referred to this as well, is that employers are moving their selection processes online. So that means that they will conduct video interviews for jobs and do online tests, and some are even developing online assessment centres. So that's something, if you're about to enter the job market, it clearly makes sense to make sure that you are comfortable with video interviews and video assessment centres. Okay, so coming back to the original question, is this a good or a bad time to graduate? And I think we have to obviously be honest and say that there will be an impact on the job market. But personally, I don't go along with some of the catastrophizing that seems to be happening just now. It seems to me that there is still hope. There is still job sectors that are recruiting, and there are still opportunities available to students. And I'm going to finish with one final slide, just with a few tips that career services in the UK are passing on to their students. So the first one is be adaptable, be flexible. So if your target career was one of the sectors that is likely to be most affected by the current crisis, then consider exploring other possibilities within the graduate job market. Now, I can only speak for the UK here, but in the graduate job market in the UK, employers are less interested in the subject of your degree and far more interested in things like your skills and qualities and maybe even the grade of your degree, but over 60% are not interested in the subject of your degree. And that means that you have flexibility. So even although you might have studied, let's say, accountancy, there's nothing to stop you looking at jobs, let's say, like marketing. And there are even some IT level jobs that you can get into with any kind of subject. So try to be flexible. The second tip is obviously to use your career service at the university. Now, although university campuses are currently closed, or at least they are in the UK, all of the career service continue to operate normally, so that all the staff are still there. They can offer online appointments. They're probably delivering presentations like this online. They're probably getting employers to deliver presentations online. So there's a lot of activity happening at the career service. So I would advise you to make contact and find out more. The other thing I wanted to say, I mentioned that employers are moving selection processes online. Some of them are also moving some opportunities online. So, for example, internships that would traditionally have taken place in the employer premises, some employers are now offering those internships online. So how that works is that the employer would give you a piece of work that you might be able to do outside of the office, maybe from home, and you would just be checking in on a regular basis with someone at the organisation. So a lot of employers are in the process of converting traditional internships to online internships. So they might be getting advertised fairly soon. And again, you should maybe speak to your career service about those opportunities. And the final tip from me is just to consider perhaps non-linear ways into your chosen career. And by that, I mean, if you graduate and you don't find a graduate job immediately, try not to be too despondent and maybe be open to the possibility of taking a non-graduate job to begin with, and remembering that your degree will retain value, and it may be possible to find a graduate job further down the line, maybe after a few months, maybe slightly longer. So those are all the tips from me. Happy to answer questions later on, but in the meantime, all that remains is just to wish you all the best of luck, and I'll pass over to the next speaker.
Hello, thank you, Jim, for this insight from the British labour market. A very interesting data and tips from the career service perspective. Now we fly from Scotland all the way to the Netherlands to Marije Bedaux, who is the career advisor at Leiden Law School at Leiden University, and has some very nice ideas that will hopefully motivate you. Hello, Marije. Can you switch on your camera, please? Yes.
I'm here.
Hi. Yes, we can hear you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Edyta. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening and joining this webinar. I'm glad that my international colleagues from the EAI expert community, employability, as well as Juan, are open to create this webinar for you with some opportunities and options in terms of what is possible during this strange and weird COVID times and crisis. I would like to mention some small tips and options for you as a student, how to make sure that you are well prepared and that you are not feeling stuck in this time, and that you have some tips to go on with your mindset for looking for internships and opportunities. I'm working at the career services of Leiden Law School in the Netherlands. And we, as Jim has mentioned also, are still helping students, international, both as national students, with questions with regard to the labor market. First, I would like to give you some basic tips with regard to how to be prepared for the future labor market. And these tips are still accurate. So the questions like, who are you? What are your talents? What are your best strengths and weaknesses? And also, what are your wishes for the future are still very valid. So right now is actually a very good time to reflect upon these questions. So who am I in terms of a personality? What would you like to contribute to the society, especially in these times? I think a lot of people are rethinking their values and also their purpose, also with regard to work. So this could actually also be one of the most typical questions right now in interviews, job interviews or interviews for internships. Like the question, okay, how did you cope with the COVID crisis? In terms of how did you react upon this? Were you capable to manage? Were you at home, or did you stay with other people in the same student fraternity, or were you an international student and did you have to stay in the country of your exchange? These are actually very recent questions I've heard from employers, and they are very curious how you as a student are capable of managing yourself during this crisis. So this could actually be a very realistic first question when you are answering questions during the job interviews. So the questions: who am I? What would I like to contribute to the society? What is the purpose I'm looking for, and how to make sure that you are well prepared online. Of course, everything, as my other colleagues have mentioned, is now online. So I think what is very important is to make sure that your online presence is accurate, up to date, and well managed. Right now is a good time to have a reflection upon your resume, your LinkedIn profile, for example, and also maybe your personal blog or your personal website. These days are also a way or an opportunity to explore how are you in terms of an entrepreneur. What did you create or what did you invent? Maybe you have written a blog, or did you create a website, or did you join online communities? So employers are always looking for students, graduates who are entrepreneurial in some way. So take your time for your CV to update your LinkedIn profile. There are some great online LinkedIn courses, also for free to follow. And look what the society needs. This can also be a voluntary job for the moment. Even online, you can do a lot of things voluntary. So this is also a little bit what Jim, my colleague, has mentioned. If it's not the right moment to apply for an internship or a job, what you have looked upon, you can also look for maybe doing some voluntary work, taking care of other skills and responsibilities. It's also the time to upskill your profile. And I mean, if you have time right now, it's actually not a bad idea to listen to podcasts you've always wanted to, or maybe follow an online courses, even courses in terms of hobbies or things you have always wanted to do, like another language, which is still very important. Yes, I also know that this, in terms of skills, can upgrade your profile. So you're filling up the gaps. You have time to do it right now. So yes, these things are also very valuable. You can also think of forming a multidisciplinary team. And I can give you an example of, so international students can meet with each other or with local students. For example, you're studying IT or your healthcare, then it could be an idea to set up a multidisciplinary team with students from other study backgrounds. And that can be very interesting to share your experiences and thoughts about what's going on right now, how are they preparing for the labor market, and so on. I would also strongly recommend you to look for online connections in your own network as well, maybe with your alumni from your study program. For example, we have in our university a mentor program. It's completely with all the alumni of the university set up. Those alumni who are in this program are willing to help students with all their questions. And I'm sure that wherever you are studying or joining a university, it's very, I think it's very helpful to ask alumni, okay, do you have some proper tips how to go on, how to manage with this this time? Can you give me some insights about what's happening in your company if you are working there, and so on. So please make sure that you have all these connections well used as well as explored, so you can expand your network at this moment. Yeah, so these are already some tips I have given to you. I see some questions coming up with the courses. I will share this with you later on, of course. And maybe some more general tips, as I am advising my students right now, is that we are very good at being in our heads. So when you are looking for opportunities in the labor market or in terms of internships or whatsoever, make sure there is a balance between action, feelings, and thinking. We are too much in our head. And when it comes to labor market opportunities and dreaming, you have to take action and also make sure that you are capable of your feelings. So what is happening to you right now? You can all write it down. So make a diary, what's happening to you during this crisis, and you can later use these answers also in your job interviews. So a balance between thinking, feeling, and action will really be better than only staying in your head. And last but not least, move. So walk, take some small walks, make some movements when you're not allowed to go out in your room, and your brain will refresh and you will see that there will be an opportunity for you as well. So I think this will be my contribution. Find a purpose for you, and I am sure that the labor market is still looking for you right now and also in the future. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Marije, for these positive ideas. Thank you so much, like always. And now we go again to the employer perspective that Karol Ovesny from Slovakia has collected for us. He's a CEO of WorkSpace Europe, a consortium of universities in Slovakia and Czech Republic focused on university business cooperation in international student internship. So he's actually the very right person to ask about internship for students. So Karol, can you join us, please? Slovakia, hello. It's a bit like
Hello.
Eurovision, connecting all the countries. Hello, hi Karol.
Hello, can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Edyta, for an introduction. So yes, hello everybody. I'm Karol Ovesny, and I'm the director of an organization called WorkSpace Europe. And we manage the internship programs for businesses. Our clients are either big international corporations, including some of the big four companies, all the way through the small and medium-sized companies, as well as the small startups. So during my brief input, I tried to put together most practical recommendations and actually the approach from the side of the employers, not only from us as being the small employer, but also gathering information from our clients, what they could recommend you regarding the student and graduate job market. So some of these recommendations will actually, I already heard from my colleagues, but perhaps I will add some of more which could be quite practical and beneficial for you. So what's happening right now? Some companies slowed down hiring. Some of them actually stopped totally hiring, waiting for what's going to happen. But all of them are really prepared and cannot wait to start fully operating until when the situation gets closer to normal. However, there is also a second aspect that other than corona pandemic crisis, it is well expected that certain economic recession may step in after this situation. So companies don't have a crystal ball, but they all are expecting the good times and returning back to normal processes as it was before. So I'll try to summarize the recommendations and tips in quite general way, as there is certain difference for big companies, more small companies. Of course, it depends on the sectors. Some of them were affected more, some of them less. So let's summarize the main recommendation and tips which could be most beneficial for you. So, for example, let's start with the big ones, the big corporations. Let's say the system of their home offices and virtual corporations, managing virtual teams, having an online interviews, they have been doing it for years now. So there is no change, mainly no change at all in these terms for these big companies. They were ready to work remotely, running from home offices and managing virtual teams. So it is not a big change for them. However, for a smaller company, it certainly is a bigger change. So they had to adapt more to this kind of new online world and trying to operate without meeting people. So finding the jobs in this situation could be more difficult as before, but certainly is not impossible at these times if you adapt your strategy the right way. And that means you can always adapt and actually prepare your supporting documents when applying for jobs, and of course prepare certain way to your interview and selection process. So first of all, I would say what companies at these times would like to see is to show the amount of flexibility and adaptability of these times. So some of the small companies, as I mentioned, they want to see if you are actually adaptable to working from home office if needed, able to actually work on different job tasks, maybe experience some kind of rotations during the job. So the adaptability and flexibility is one of the main area they would be also focused at these times at candidates. It was also mentioned that a very important now is as well kind of like a self-drive or self-motivation. I'm sure that one of the most common questions would be, if you get to the job interview, what have you been doing during this home quarantine? How did you spend this time? And here it is a great opportunity to show what actually how you spend well this time, either by taking certain courses or doing an online volunteering. There are plenty of opportunities what you could do, which either Marije, my colleague, already mentioned. So this is certainly a great help for your future employer in these times. Also, digital skills, as I mentioned, for many companies now, for big ones, digital skills were expected even before. So this is like the very common skill you should already have, but you can now even strengthen this by adding the ability to work with certain online communication tools, which are now very trendy and commonly used. Some of the smaller companies actually, which it was not that common system of work for them. So it is certainly a great help to your profile if you show or either mention in your CV that you are able to work with the most commonly used communication tools which are currently on the market. So it's a great help. Also, I would like to point out having quite realistic expectations, reflecting the current situation, mainly regarding the expected benefits. Some of the companies may change or even decrease the financial benefits of internships or jobs. And of course, this is more affecting the social benefits because, for example, who knows how soon you will be able to go to the company gym or having a company party. So also, I would advise you to be a little quite realistic on expectations, reflecting current times in terms of expected benefits for a job you're applying to. So, as well, what I have experienced is that for small companies, you may experience a different kind of contract. Employment contracts just for these times, maybe a slightly different kind of additional amendments reflecting the potential future risks. So the small companies would like to protect themselves. So it may also be no surprise if you see some kind of different type of contracts, maybe for a short term as an initial period. Just this is all just reflecting the uncertain future and times currently, even though everybody is thinking very positive and see the situation and the future very, very good. So I think I can say that all companies really cannot wait until they start fully operating very soon, because the economy cannot stop. And as far as they immediately when they start, this will have a positive impact to the graduate job market, because as before and even now and after, they will always need the fresh graduates and to actually for their businesses. And I would like to also at the end mention that even now the internship is a great way how you get to your desired job, and finally having a nice job at the end after this situation that's closer to normal. So this was pretty much all I put together in terms of practical recommendations. If you'd like to hear more or get more of information from us, I'm available here, or you can find us at placementslovakia.com. So thank you very much, and I will pass the word to Edyta.
Thank you, Karol, for this perspective from Slovakia. And last but not least, because we are a little bit running out of time, we move again to the Netherlands to hear about some practical examples of what students already do, because many students already took these recommendations into action. And Elke, please share with us the ideas that you gathered for us.
Hi, I hope everybody can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I won't make it too long, but there are obviously a lot of examples. But I also mainly want to illustrate a bit what Marije told and what is possible. So I have a couple of examples. One of them is a student from Fontys, from our university, and he is actually from Human and Technology, and he's printing 3D face masks with his own 3D printer, and it's meant for caretakers. And he's doing this in collaboration with this initiative called Makers for All. It has 6 ambassadors now in the Netherlands, and what they saw is that there's a shortage in the market in certain places, like for policemen or for people working in the supermarket, well, in many areas, for certain protection materials. So they decided to shout out to all the makers in the Netherlands to help them create these materials. Obviously, it's under certain restrictions, rules. I mean, people will be helped to make sure that they do it in the right way. And they are actually also looking for ambassadors in other countries in Europe. So if it could be interesting for you, if you're a real maker, or maybe you're good in social media or any other area, you can have a look, and maybe you can also be part of this. Another example, let's see if I can... Yes, is from another student. She's in management, economy, and law, and actually she was supposed to go on a world trip for 5 months. She had to come back, and she called me and she said, "What do I do now? Because I don't want to waste this time just binge watch all these series on Netflix all day. So how can I be useful and at the same time develop my skills?" So what I did is we worked together with this initiative. Is called Eco Village Boekel. And it's actually the first 100% sustainable village in the Netherlands. And they work on all the sustainable development goals from the United Nations. And what they want to do is to create an educational center. And they are looking to work together with all disciplines from the universities in the Netherlands. It doesn't only have to be my university, obviously. And she just called them and she said, maybe I can help. And now they are collaborating. And it's interesting to see, because if you look beyond maybe the obvious companies, then you also see that there's many civil initiatives. I know in the area where I work, and they really are looking for students to professionalize. And even in these times, and they actually need these like these innovative ideas that students have. So I think it could be a good idea to also think about those kind of internships maybe, or volunteer work, where you create a win-win situation, obviously. So I have some more examples, small examples. It's on the next slide, but I don't seem to manage to. Maybe there's some, yeah, there they are. They are, well, I didn't go into much detail because we're running out of time, but it's just to show that there's all kinds of ways that students can help, like finding a way to still take practical exams so students don't lose a year and the labor market is not losing these great students that were supposed to be on the labor market. Well, things about like if you're, like loneliness, those kind of issues. So there have been students working together from social study, ICT, to create some virtual communication. And we also created together with the university next to ours a way to help people that, employees, but also students that are in need for some talk sometimes, just because they need to talk to somebody and they might not have anybody at home. So our students also volunteered in that project to chat with those students and employees that needed it. And it's in English and in Dutch. And I think there's many more ideas that are there and that could be inspiring for you to look for ways to do something useful and develop your skills further. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Elke. This was Elke van der Valk. Sorry, I didn't even introduce you properly. Consultant of regionalization and sustainable development goals at Fontys University of Applied Sciences. So thank you, my friends and colleagues, for this input from different perspectives of both employers. I wanted to make sure that the students have a feeling that these are reliable sources, that the tips and the data given is not a media buzz, but is something that is drawn from experience and professional career service advisors. You can follow. There were some questions that I wanted to come back to. One question was to Jim regarding the data. That was very. I cannot find it now. Maybe before we go to this one, I wanted also to say, because yeah, you can look for internship scholarships and opportunities in Poland in the Ready Study Go web page, but also in the context of what we are saying today, the internships that will be happening online are across borders, so your opportunities really expand. If more and more companies will move into this scheme, then the internationalization will and globalization will develop much faster in this digital scheme, at least for the time being. But I think it's more of an opportunity than a drawback in the end. The question for Jim regarded the chart that you were showing, and they were asking whether it took into account the natural population growth and if there was a drop in wages, not only employment. Jim, are you there? Can you comment on this? Jim, we cannot hear you. You need to put the mic on.
Okay. Yeah. On the slide where I had the chart, there is a link. I don't know if we can share the presentation with the attendees, but there is a link to the article that contains that data, and I think it does talk about the salaries. Yep, I think it was. Yep, that one there. So in the corner of this slide, there is a direct link to the article, and it talks about, as you can see by the title, the effects of the recession on the graduate labour market, and it does talk about the impact on salaries, which I think, if I remember well, didn't increase but didn't decrease either. I'm not sure about whether it takes into account the growth in population, but remember that I think in the UK that population isn't growing that much, and that alone couldn't account for that level of rise from 2007 up to 2016. It was just steady growth of professional level jobs. So I think that's a feature of the job market, regardless of the slight growth in population.
Thank you, Jim, for this comment. There were also questions about the LinkedIn, the training about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, but Marije has already responded in the comments in the chat. There is also a lot of webinars and tutorials on how to optimize this. So I recommend also the LinkedIn ones. And really, the opportunities are out there. We gave you example today. There are many universities, alumni, wonderful source of information. They are always very eager and interested to help you out. So don't be shy to reach out. And I think that's it. I don't see any other questions. If you come up with some afterwards, I think there is a way to contact us. We are an expert community of the EAIE. So you can look for the website and contact us. You can, and I encourage you also to follow the webinars. I've participated in some of the webinars organized by the national agency NAWA, Ready Study Go Poland, and there was so much interaction. The students are so interested to join. You can also connect to your peers there. So a great also opportunity to reach out. You can find them in the social media and in the www.gopoland.pl website. So thank you for your attention. It was nice to have you here. We are sorry we took you a little bit more time, but I'm happy that nobody almost left the meeting. And we are also live in Facebook. What can I say? We wish you a lot of health. And remember, impossible is nothing. Good luck, guys. Thank you for your attention. Bye.